love the channel and find it useful in becoming a happy retiree. Subscribe today. Ellen from South Carolina. Well, that's where we'll start. Ellen, good morning. Welcome to the show. How can we help?
I'm just wondering if it would make more economical sense to pull money out of my 401 to help purchase a home or to finance part of that house.
Okay, so let's get a couple of statistics on you, Ellen, just general talking points here so I can understand your situation a little bit better. How old are you?
66.
And so that means your 401k money is available to take without getting a penalty, so that's good. How much are we talking, how much do you need to finance this house, Ellen?
I need an additional $100,000, and I have about $430 in my 401. I don't anticipate, I'm not planning on making any withdrawals on that to sustain my monthly, lifestyle.
So you don't really need the 401k money is what you're saying to add to your income.
Right.
Do you have, so at 66, I would suspect you're taking Social Security, Ellen?
Yes, I am.
And then you also have a pension, Ellen.
I do.
Okay, so you've got you have a pension and social, and that combined, that's enough, it sounds like, for your monthly living expenses.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Well, here's what, and I suspect you're asking this question, correct me if I'm wrong, is that you just don't want to have any sort of debt on the house. So you don't want to have a mortgage.
I don't want to have any debt on the home, but and then I'm thinking everything is really good in the market right now, so my money is big. So I didn't know if it would, make more sense to take it from there, or to go ahead and finance and pay, fees and interest and all of that.
Yeah, it's a good question. The reason I was asking about your other income sources is that really this comes down to a tax. It's really a question about taxes, because the biggest variable in this equation, there's a lot of variables here. You just mentioned that the market's done well, so your 401k is a lot higher than it was a year ago. It's probably grown $50,000 to $100,000 in the last year or two. So you've probably seen some real gains, and I think it's smart to say, hey, maybe it's time to take some of those gains off the table. The only issue I have with pulling that money from the 401k, if you and you do it in a big chunk, it's going to dump an enormous amount of income onto your 1040. So it's going to dump an enormous amount of income into your AGI, your adjusted gross income, is going to jump by $100,000.
Can I do that income averaging where you spread it out over the year?
Well, the one thing you could do, and we just turned the calendar here, obviously, into 2018. So you could have taken, let's say, $50,000 in 2017, and then take the other $50,000 this year, so you spread it out. So that'd be one way to do it. You could still do that in 2018 and 2019, but obviously we're a long way off from 2019. So that would entail you still getting some sort of mortgage to finance that $100,000. But if you were to drop another $100,000 in income from, I assume your Social Security is probably $2,000 a month.
Oh, a little bit more, yeah.
So we'll call it $2,200 a month. That's so that's $26,000. Then about how much per year is your pension?
It's about $1,800 a month.
Another $1,800 a month.
Yes,
okay.
Yeah.
All right. So your income right now is already around $45,000.
Then I work a little bit, and I just earn like 14, an additional 14.
An additional $14,000 a year. Okay.
Yes.
So your income's already around 60. And then if you were to take, so you're already in a really low, and the reason I'm trying to do these numbers here is to figure out how big of an impact that extra $100,000 would be if you pull it out. So if you're in a really high tax bracket, Ellen, you pull out $100,000, you're going to pay 37% this year on that, right? If you're already in a low tax bracket and you start to spread this out, then you could potentially it could be relatively affordable. And that's as I'm talking this through. So my first gut reaction is to, most of the time, I would immediately jump up and down and say, Ellen, no way, don't do that. Never do that. Never pull a giant chunk of money out of your IRA, your 401k to pay for anything, because the government is the one who wins, because the government takes this giant chunk of taxes out. If your tax bracket's already, let's call it 20%, now all of a sudden you put another $100,000 in income as someone who's, are you single or married, by the way?
I'm single.
So yeah, so you're in a really high tax bracket already. You put another $100,000 of income on that. Now you're in a really, really high tax bracket, and you end up paying a tremendous amount in taxes. So let me just do a quick calculation here. And you're in the state of Georgia or South Carolina?
Well, I'm actually living in the state of Georgia. I'm just in South Carolina right now.
Got it. Okay. So you're a Georgia resident. You're single. You are over 65, currently itemized. Let's just look at, in general, what your taxes are here. You know, you right now, looks like next year, your top bracket is the 22% bracket, Ellen. If you added $100,000 in income, so do you go from 60 to 160,000, you now jump up to just the 24 bracket. So it doesn't look like you jump, because the new 24% tax bracket, Ellen, is anything under about 157,500. So you'd still stay under that bracket. Yeah, this is a close call, because it doesn't completely annihilate your tax scenario from what I can see here. I typically would say don't do that. You're going to pay too much on it. But I also love the fact that you won't have a mortgage. If it were me, I would explore the following. I would look at getting a mortgage for a really low rate, and trying to get as low of a cost closing type mortgage, and then pay that mortgage off between this year and next year. And that way you could still spread out the taxes. So I still like going back to, maybe you pull 50 out of your 401k today and another 50 in 2019, then the whole thing gets paid off. That way you keep your tax rate as low as humanly possible. I think
the tax rate will not offset the cost of the loan, of acquiring the loan, and then the interest that I have to pay on it.
Well, no, that's the problem. That's why pulling money out of these 401ks is a big deal, is that you're going to have to pay 22 to 24%, depending on how much you pull out, in the money they pull out. So if you want $100,000, Susan, you've got to pull out 120 or 130, pay the taxes to net down to 100. So you've got to look at the cost of your taxes is tremendous relative to some closing costs, and that's the math I want you to do. Look at the difference between those two, and really be careful and strategic about this. You probably want to run these numbers too directly with your CPA. Hi, I'm Wes Moss, and thanks for taking a minute to hear about what's so different about my new book, You Can Retire Sooner Than You Think. So unlike other retirement books, this book will give you a step-by-step guide, whether you're in your 20s or 30s or 40s or 50s, to learn from what these successful and happy retirees did to get there. I hope you enjoy the book, but more importantly, I know that it'll help you retire sooner than you think.